and say hello and thank you for joining us for this week's Thursday 30. I'm Caris, one of CENMAC's advisory teachers, and we've got James Wright, a product specialist at Ayoa, joining us this afternoon. James is going to talk about how Ayoa's innovative mind mapping tools can help learners overcome barriers to writing. So if you have any questions for James as we go, just please type them into the chat and we will take time at the end to answer those questions. But for now, thank you and over to James.
Oh, thank you very much, and you did pronounce it perfectly as we practiced before everyone showed up. Thank you everyone for joining me. I'm James, and as mentioned, I'm going to be talking about Ayoa today. If you do have questions, do pop it in the chat. There should be some time to answer questions at the end. So first off, what actually is Ayoa? Ayoa is an AI-powered all-in-one visual productivity tool. So you can sort of think of it as a Swiss Army knife of assistive technology. It was founded in 2019 in Penarth, just outside of Cardiff. Some of you who's been in the industry for a while might have heard of iMindMap. This is sort of the predecessor to that. It's founded by Chris Griffiths, who is an award-winning author and expert in this sort of metacognition, visual thinking space. So you can use it for mind mapping, essay writing, presenting, starting essays, working on them and completing them all in one place. Task management, so of course you've got a beautiful mind map, but what do you actually do with it next? How do you make it usable, actionable? And collaboration. So you work alongside students, you could collaborate within Ayoa, or if they have an additional special support, they can all work collaboratively. So what is a mind map? We'll just briefly like to mention this. So a mind map is a visual thinking tool used to capture information and ideas. It starts with a central idea and branches out into key themes, topics, and it's a really versatile way to break down complex problems. Ayoa is browser-based, and what this means, of course, is disability isn't just restricted to the classroom. You have dyslexia, ADHD when you're at home, in the library, studying in the park on a sunny day. And of course, if a student have a high-spec, super advanced computer, they get the exact same experience no matter what they're using. Works on any smartphone or tablet device, so Android, iOS, and any laptop computer, so Chromebooks, Macs, Windows devices. Today we're going to go over some of the key features of Ayoa. We're actually going to work on a bit of an essay plan within Ayoa. We're going to work on it and then we're going to complete it all within this half an hour. And then I'm hopefully going to show you some little bits of the Ayoa AI we're going through. So this is my home page. As you can see, I've got a couple of mind maps here already. Along the side, we have some additional options. So you could have folders for specific classes or projects. You can have groups. So if you're working collaboratively on group projects, there is a planner and a calendar inbuilt, and these can sync to your Google or Outlook account as well. Up in the top left-hand corner, there is instant chat. So again, if you have specialist support, you can communicate and work with Ayoa. So the key takeaway of this is that you don't need to have 10, 15, 20 different tabs, several different systems open all at once. You can do a majority just within Ayoa. Don't need to leave and lose your focus. I always like to point out halfway down there is a help and support button. So of course, sometimes we all need a bit of a reminder how to use our softwares. So lots of useful videos and additional user guides, tutorials down here as well. Down in the bottom, we have our additional settings. It does work in a range of different languages, including, of course, Welsh, being a Welsh company, and even Irish Gaelic. So if that's ever relevant, that's available. So I'm just going to minimize this, and we're going to come and we're going to create a new project. So first off, I hit the new project button. We can start from scratch, or there's a range of templates inbuilt, including, of course, more workplacey templates, but there are some student-specific templates like revision planning, like essay planning, day of the exam, even some self-care templates, like mood boarding, de-stressing. So even students with like mental health difficulties can maybe build positive coping strategies by using Ayoa. You can even create your own templates. So you could create one for the student, or they can create their own templates they use again and again. I'm going to skip a few steps and I'm going to use one that I've already started working on, and it's about wildlife conservation. So we're going to hit create, and it's a bit of a wildlife conservation essay plan. As you can see, we've got a bit of structure here. We can simply hit the tab key to create new branches, or we can just drag those ideas out. You can even draw ideas out if you prefer. So you don't really need to worry about how pretty and organized and clean it is. You just, as you're having ideas, throwing them out. And the idea is just to get those ideas on the paper. Let's add conclusion. Now, something really important to note about Ayoa is it works essentially in a clockwise direction. So if I am creating an essay or a presentation using Ayoa, when I export this, it's going to come through clockwise. Up the top here, we do have this outline view. So as you can see, when I mentioned that clockwise direction, conclusions at the top, we can move it within that outline, or we can just drag it directly within the map. The next thing you might be thinking is if I am just throwing my ideas out left, right, and center, it could get quite messy quite quickly. So we do have this little hand with sparkles behind it. With a single click, that'll just tidy up the mind map. So again, your goal is to get your ideas in that mind map. With a single click of a button, it tidies it up instantly for you. So you can just worry about idea generation. Now, this is a visual way of working, so we can add some more visual elements. We can right click on any branch, come down to add, and across to image. There's a database of royalty-free images, and you can use AI to generate entirely new images as well. Or we've recently added in GIFs. So let's add a GIF in here. And of course, we're talking wildlife conservation, so we're going to go with a nice giraffe. As you can see, we've got some nice giraffe GIFs here. I personally quite like this little baby giraffe getting up. We can adjust the layout. And it just makes those resources, like a revision plan or a presentation, just that bit more engaging, because you want to engage with the actual study materials in the way that works for you. Up in the top right-hand corner, we have some additional neuro settings. So we have something called dyslexia mode, and that's for students who experience sort of visual stress. When they read, they see ants on the page, or the letters move around. We can turn that on, and as you can see, to change that whole background color. We can customize this color as well. And if you do even have a specific prescription, red, green, blue, you can enter that in here, and it will customize to your needs. It does have a dark mode, so students with low vision, but again, that visual stress. And I always like to point out there are speed keys. So even if a student has a physical disability, maybe an adaptive keyboard, or just like speed keying, hotkeying, they can get a similar experience using Ayoa. Okay, well, now everything's set up. Maybe it's time to start actually working on this essay. So I can right click on any branch, come across to notes. I can add just typing in as standard, but it also works with all speech to text and text to speech systems. So I'm going to use the inbuilt Windows speech to text. The wildlife trusts play a very important part in protecting our natural heritage. It also works with all text to speech as well. So if a student has read and write, drag and dictate, speechify, anything like that, it all works collaboratively within Ayoa. We can add some images in for a little bit extra context. So here's a picture of the beautiful David Attenborough, for example. Oh, it's taking a little bit of time to load. Sorry, that is dependent on my internet speed, I believe. Yeah. You'll come back in here. And we can even add, so again, we'll just right click, come to notes, say a table, for instance, as well. So maybe we're tracking the number of eagle eggs laid that year, for instance. Or we work where we have to leave and enter a spreadsheet. We can just do everything directly in here. We can add some attachments. So again, we can right click any branch, come down to add and across to attachments. You can have any resources, so it links to your Dropbox, Google Drive, or you could upload all your PDF, Word resources. You could in fact have a mind map which is just navigating through classroom resources, for instance. You could have important links, so obviously wildlife conservation websites, revision websites, or even just bus timetables for getting around. You can add audio recordings. So if you think maybe a student with autism who's not in a headspace to be writing at that point, but they can talk and talk and talk on a topic and then listen back to that, parrot it back at a more convenient time. You can add in citations. So if you do have an ISBN number, you can just copy and paste that in here. Hit cite. And there's various referencing styles inbuilt as well. So when it does come time to export this as a completed essay, the citations will be correct, bibliography will all be correct as well. Now, there's a number of AI features within Ayoa, and the idea of Ayoa's AI is not to do the work for you, but to give you some jumping off points, some ideas to work with, so prevent that writer's block a lot of students can experience. So if I come up the top where there's this AI button, we can use this to maybe summarize text-dense resources, or maybe with specific jargon, or we can get some ideas to start building upon. So I'm going to put in a bit of a prompt. We're going to go with types of animal habitats in Africa. Hit enter, and we'll see what it shows up with. As you can see, quite quickly, it's come up with some ideas, and I can say, oh, I absolutely love these, and add these in. Just add them directly into the branch. Now, something you might be thinking is if I am creating a massive essay or a presentation or anything like that, revision plans, it's going to get maybe quite big, overwhelming, quite distracting after a while. So we do have something for this. So down here, we have what's called autofocus mode. We can just turn on autofocus mode. And essentially what this means is we can go in branch by branch, section by section. We don't need to have the whole big picture. We can compartmentalize what we're working on. Up in the top left-hand corner, we have something called the idea bank. And this is sort of a parking lot for your ideas. You don't know where they fit in that essay plan quite yet, or you've got working memory difficulty, or acquired brain injury, and you just need to get those ideas down. We can copy directly from the mind map. We can send these to other mind maps, or start organizing these as tasks, or start whiteboarding them, whatever we need. Okay, well, now we have the structure, we have it all set up. It's time to actually start organizing these perhaps as tasks. So up the top, we have 4 main sections. So mind map, document view, whiteboard, and task board. I'm going to come across to task board now. As you can see, there are multiple ways of organizing your tasks based on what works for you. So Canvas, workflow, or Gantt timeline. I'm going to start with workflow. This is a really simple way to organize your tasks. You add in a main category, so something like now, something I want to do this week, next, something I want to do next week, and completed, something that's been finished. We only need to set this up once because we can then come back to our original mind map, hit the tick up in the corner, and just add these into the relevant categories. So I'll just add a few so we can see what it looks like today. As you can see, these are added in. This does also offer a Gantt timeline, and this is maybe more of a traditional way of organizing your tasks. And this is a really easy one to use. You can just click, drag the task in. You can actually link tasks or add in what's called a dependency, which basically means life happens. If this part of the introduction gets pushed back a few days, by moving it, it's now automatically going to move conclusion. We can use this as in-depth or as simply as we want. We can add in like progress, mark the urgency, importance, put in dates, put in times, assign it to other users, add reminders, notes, comments, attachments, lists, and more. And that's what I like about Ayoa. You can use it as in-depth or as simply as you need, really. So my favorite one would have to be this canvas view. And you can kind of think of these as buckets. And the idea is that you just move these tasks around. And now we can see all my tasks are in my completed bucket. I know they're ready now to be exported. The next thing we would do is we'd come up perhaps to our document view. And in the immortal words of Blue Peter, here's one I created earlier, just to show you what it might look like. You can work within here, so if you do prefer that more linear way of working, that's absolutely fine as well. Once you're happy, you can hit export. You can export to Word, PDF, PowerPoint, lots of different styles here as well. And of course, it can include that bibliography. So essentially, you can start working on an essay, work on it, and then complete it all in one place. Now, I want to have a bit of fun with some AI. So again, Ayoa has AI, and the goal of it is not to do the work for you, but to help prevent that sort of writer's block, give you some jumping off points. So we can hit that new project button, give it a title. We're going to keep it to the same theme. So we're going to go with wildlife in Africa. We can go mind map, task board, whiteboard. We can start with a blank mind map, day one, completely from scratch. You can combine mind maps. So maybe you have a few on the same topic. You're working on a group project, for instance, combine it, tidy it up, and you can import various resources. But I'm going to go AI, generate ideas. We can enter a bit of a prompt, so wildlife in Africa again. There are some additional neuro settings, so clear and concise sentences, simplified language or plain English. And you can even add in a special interest, so again, help that student connect with the materials. So if a student likes trains, planes, Star Wars, Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, you enter that in, and when it creates that mind map, it will link back to that special interest. So let's go with Star Wars today. We can add notes and images for additional context, or when we're happy, we just hit create. I have a sip of coffee. We can use this as a jumping off point for, as I say, essays, presentations, but it's never going to do the whole job for you. There we are. As you can see, quite quickly, it's created our mind map, and it has linked to that Star Wars theme. So I'll just read a few. The savannah is like the desert planet of Jakku, wide and open. The rainforest is dense and full of life, like the forest moon of Endor. So if Star Wars is your special interest, you're really going to engage with this mind map. And we can start working on this mind map like before, maybe copy some of these great ideas into our idea bank. The next thing I want to quickly show is the whiteboard. And this is sort of a collaborative workspace. Maybe you're not ready to start mind mapping quite yet or making tasks. We can see the bigger picture in here before we take that next step. It has a classic post-it note. So as many of you know, I personally have dyslexia and I love a post-it note. My desk is covered in them. So I love that that's available. We can grab in some of these ideas from our original mind map. Maybe we use this line tool, start connecting them together, see how they all fit. We can add in lists. So if you're a very organized person who likes to use lists, you can add lists in here. Maybe for a field trip, you need certain items. You can add in images. So again, a database of royalty-free images. You can upload your own image, or you can even use the AI to generate an entirely new image. This has a range of different styles, so black and white, cyberpunk, hyper-realistic. And let's add a bit of a prompt here. We'll go for the same theme, so Star Wars, wildlife in Africa. We'll go for a bit of a lion Sith, for instance. We'll enter this in. I did one of these presentations and it got off the rails once, and I started making ice cream jellyfish for someone. So I'm not taking any requests, unfortunately, today, but when you do try it out, be sure to give this a go. Oh, how cool does that look? Again, it's all just about drawing links to information. We can add that in, say that looks great, and we're sort of piecing this all together. We can add in text. There is dyslexic-friendly font Lexent inbuilt. Any documents, so all our PDF, Word resources, related mind maps, whiteboards, task boards. And professionally, this is one of the ways we use it. We have basically master whiteboards, and you come in and you navigate through different sections. So there's like a marketing, a sales, a HR whiteboard. You can have attachments, so Dropbox, Google Drive, links, anything like that. You can have a flowchart, so if you do prefer that more linear way of working. Freehand drawing tool, so maybe we're drawing links to related information, maybe even just drawing a little mind map in this section. You can have sections, so maybe you're working with a few different students. You can have different sections for them, or they're working on group projects, or they have different classes. They could have a history, geography section, just navigate through the relevant whiteboards. The last AI button I'll show you here is again all about generating some ideas. So it can brainstorm, give random ideas, SWOT analysis, pros and cons. We'll just keep to the same theme, so wildlife in Africa. Hit create, and because we have already put in our special interest, it's automatically going to link back to that as well for us. As you can see, it's a very quick process there. And I can say, oh, I love these ideas, add them straight back into my idea bank, maybe start creating some tasks, or simply bring them back to my original mind map and start organizing them in here. The next thing I want to show is the import option. So of course, students have a lot of resources these days. So you can upload a range of resources and Ayoa will create a mind map from them. So MP3 audio recording. So if a student has a dictaphone or likes podcasts, for instance, they can upload that. It will create a mind map. Text dense Word, PDF resources, PowerPoint presentations. Handwritten content, so if a student likes to take notes, but at the end of the day, they've just got a big old pile of dusty papers, and they don't really do anything with it. They can take a picture, upload it, create a mind map, works with lists, works with paper, hand-drawn mind maps, or sticky notes. Websites, perhaps with specific language or jargon, and even YouTube videos. So I've just got a few short videos to show you. This is one I wrote up. As you can see, there's some pretty glaring mistakes. You can just come into Ayoa, so take a picture, send it to your computer device and upload it, or directly on your phone or tablet device, just take a picture directly within the app and instantaneously it will create that mind map for you. So the age-old question, physical drawing mind maps or digital mind maps? Why not both? We can do the same thing with sticky notes, for instance. So this is the CEO's book. We've got a couple sticky notes in here. And again, we can take those, take a picture, send it to our device, or directly on your phone app or on your tablet. It will instantaneously do it. And the interesting thing about sticky notes as well is it does color coordinate. So if you use yellow, green, pink, as demonstrated, when you upload it, it will also color coordinate within that mind map. So you do have to choose the sticky notes image section, hit import, hit show. And as you can see, it's created that mind map. So I always say, when you try out Ayoa, try out your own handwriting and see how well it works. I quite like the website option as well. So maybe you've got like a really text-dense website, or this is a healthcare website, specific language like healthcare, engineering, things like that, with specific vocabulary. It will pull out that jargon, that vocabulary, and it'll give you that context around it. So you just get the website URL, paste it into the AI section of Ayoa, hit create. You can link it to that special interest. You can have notes, images, and as you can see, it's pulled out that information and it's even added in that notes. So we have a little bit extra context to be working with. I just got one last video to show you today. If you do want these videos afterwards, please do let me know. But of course, it would have to be YouTube. There's so much incredible resources out on YouTube students use every day. So you can get the URL of any YouTube video and paste it into the YouTube video section. What I like about the YouTube video section as well is you can put time range in. So let's say you have a long form video. Let's say you upload this to YouTube. You can choose minute 15 to minute 20, and it will only pull from that section. And essentially, it uses the transcript, just in case you were curious, to create that video. Hit that mind map. So for me, it's all about getting different perspectives. So yes, of course, you can watch a video, you can listen to it, but now you're looking at it at a mind mapping angle, a different angle. Maybe you can start whiteboarding on it, task management, creating individual mind maps. So taking the same problem, that same resource, just looking at different angles. The last thing I'll leave you with today is all the different licensing subscription types, just so you've got that in the back of your mind. So there is a free version of Ayoa. That's what we like. It's available on ayoa.com. You can download it at any point. and that will give you up to 10 free mind maps. Now, it doesn't include any of the AI or task management, but if you're not a power user, you just want a couple free mind maps, it's completely free. You can get it on subscription, so it can be monthly, annually, or 2 years. And again, that is unlimited AI and all the task management as well. It's offered on the DSA, Disabled Students Allowance, which is a 5-year subscription for full-time students, 6 years for part-time students. It's offered on Access to Work, and that is a 3-year subscription through that. You can get team subscriptions, so as few as, 5 or as many as you need to larger organizations. But thank you very much for joining me on this whistle-stop tour of Ayoa.